Hey everybody, Grant Clayton here. I'm going to make a quick video on doing a comparative market analysis. Now then, when you do a comparative market analysis, there's a bunch of things you're going to want to have in mind, and we're going to go over the biggest ones. So if you are in a city, you might not be dealing with neighborhoods where you can sort by neighborhood. However, if you're dealing in the suburbs or if you're dealing in smaller towns, then you're probably going to have neighborhoods where you can sort all the properties based off of neighborhood. So we're going to go over that. We're going to go over condition of property. We're going to go over how much you should know before you go to your listing appointment. We're going to go over a bunch of those things. So number one, here's a scenario. Somebody calls you and says, hey, I am looking for somebody to come list my house. Would you please run some comparables and come give me a listing presentation Saturday at 2 o'clock? Okay. So you get out of them this. Okay, absolutely. Give me your address so that I can start running a market analysis. Okay. And with your market analysis, you're gonna do your best to assign a value to the property. But a good question to ask is, hey, have you done any did you buy it through the MLS? That's a great one to ask, because then you'll know whether you can just immediately go see when the property sold last and see pictures of when it sold last. And if it did sell in the MLS, like through a realtor last time it sold, then you ask, okay, have you done any major updates to it? Is anything major changed? Okay. And what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to pretty well figure you out in your mind. Am I going to deal with a fixer-upper? Am I going to deal with a completely updated house? What am I dealing with? So based off of that, in this video, we're going to learn how to do a CMA. And the CMA is the hardest part of being a realtor. Assigning a value to a property it's an art form for being a realtor. It's the thing you most need to do in this world and most need to master as an agent. Okay. I'll give you a perfect example of when this can work out well for you. I had one of my best friends wanted to list his house at $375,000. I told him to list it at $395,000. The reason was because he was the only house in the area, really the only house at all, anywhere near it, under $400,000 with an in-ground pool and a nice back porch. And so even though he only wanted 375, I knew if anybody was looking sub 400 for a house with a really awesome back porch and an in-ground pool, he was going to be the only house on the market. So I knew if I had one person, just one, looking for those criteria, they would be willing to overpay for his house, especially with interest rates as low as they are. Okay. So I listed his house at 395. He wanted to go in at 375 and it sold in like 6 hours. Okay. It didn't happen because of any of my marketing. It didn't happen because any of those things. It happened because I knew the market, which is your biggest job as an agent. So let's dive right into this. You have that conversation. You ask him, how's the house? Oh, well, it's in amazing shape. We totally renovated it. We're house flippers. We totally renovated it. It's awesome. Okay. So guess what? You're going to go in and you're going to find the subject property. In this case, we're using 7410 Farwood Drive in New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay. So based off of 7410 Farwood, with it being in New Orleans, guess what? We don't have cities. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to click on this address. Now look, understand in different MLSs, you're going to have a little bit different process, but the overarching goal is going to be the same. You're going to want to do the same thing I'm doing. It's just you might be clicking in different spots and doing different things. But first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look up the subject property and I'm going to see that it's 2,173 living. And since I can't do neighborhood searches, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to click right here and say, okay, where's this property at? Okay. Well, I know this house is in New Orleans East, right here in Westlake, Plum Orchard, Pine Village, Seabrook, this whole area. So now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in my criteria. I want all active properties, pending properties, non-listed solds, open predications, sold houses, and under contract houses for the past year. So this is 0 to 365 days. In the state of Louisiana, in Orleans Parish, in the city of New Orleans. But look what else I did. I did 1,800 to 2,500 living. Now then, the subject property is 2,173 living. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find everything a little bit smaller and a little bit bigger. Okay. Now then, since we can't do neighborhood searches, if I could do a neighborhood search, I would just go straight down here and type in the subdivision and look at all the comparable houses in that subdivision. But this is in a city, so I can't really do that. So now I'm going to go to map. Okay. And once I go to map, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look over here and I'm going to say, okay, where's this at? This is just below I-10 in this area right here. So guess what? I'm going to find that area over here. Then I'm going to draw a radius. And I'm going to draw a circle. And I'm going to grab all those houses in that circle. Okay. Then I'm going to go to results. Now then, immediately here, you'll notice really, really low prices per square foot and a bunch of houses that are called fixer-uppers. But if I sort it the other way, now I'm getting really, really expensive houses. Okay, these are completely new houses or resales or things like that. So this is a good time to bear in mind, okay, what do I know about the house that I'm going to see? Is it amazing? Is it kind of crappy? Does it need to be completely gutted and renovated? Know your house. And if you don't know which one it is, okay, if you don't know whether it's amazing or unamazing, okay, and awful, if you don't know any of those things, then you might want to bring all your comps, okay? But one of the things that I would make it a point to do is look and see if you have any outliers. So like here, everything is based off of price per square foot. So I'm taking the living footage and I'm multiplying that times a multiple, which is your price per square foot to arrive at a list price. So as agents, 99% of the time, that's what we're doing. So basically I've got all these houses. The nicest house to sell in the past year was 2017 living, and it listed for $133 a foot. Okay, the next one down listed for $126 a foot, and then after that you go down to $121 a foot. So guess what's going to happen if you go meet somebody and they've got a somewhat nice house, but not great, just kind of above average, and they see that $133 a foot there? They're going to say, "Oh, well, I want to price mine at $133 a foot." They did, and their house sold. And then when the house doesn't sell, well, somebody else sold this one for $133 a foot. Why aren't you selling mine for $133 a foot? And the reason is because their house is not as nice. This house, I've looked at it at $133 a foot. It is amazing. It is way nicer than everything else in that area. So the point of this is a comparable market analysis. Okay. If you have a house that is not very nice, you do not want to pull all the nicest houses and use that as comparables. Because guess what? Now you're setting their expectations incredibly high and you're setting yourself up to fail. On the flip side of that, if the house is above average or even better as far as the quality of the house, you don't want to bring them in all the comps for the tear downs and for the awful houses. Because guess what? They're going to do one of two things. They're either going to drastically undersell, or they're going to tell you you're crazy. The house is worth way more than this. You need to learn your market, and they're going to kick you out of their house. Okay. So the point is to get our client the highest list price that is realistic. Okay. And sometimes, like in the case of my friend, you can push the envelope a little bit, and pushing the envelope is great. But if you push it too much, nobody wants to see it. So it's important to know when you can push the envelope, under what terms you can push the envelope. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Knowing when you can push that envelope, and that's an art form. That is the hardest part of being a realtor. That's just something you have to learn. But with this house, okay, so here's the thing. A flipper bought this house, okay, and when it was originally bought, they paid $87 a foot. So guess what I would do? If I'm working with an investor, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, this house has hit the market, Mr. Investor, and it needs to be renovated. Okay, now it might not need to be torn down, but it needs to be renovated. So over here, I'm going to sort by listing price per square foot, and I'm going to say, okay, we don't want to look at these super nice ones at $100 and something a foot. We want to look at these down here. We don't want these that are full of termites and completely flooded from Katrina and they need to be torn down. We want to look at these fixer-uppers. $56 a foot, $65 a foot, $73 a foot, $74 a foot, $77 a foot, $75 a foot, yada, 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 and on down the line. So I'm selecting the ones that should be able to accurately price this house Okay. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to go one-click CMA. Now then, once I do one-click CMA, this is going to show me what's active on the MLS, $74, $73, $75. It's going to tell me what has sold on the MLS. Okay. It's sold for as low as $37, but then you got a 78, a 61, and a 68. So basically, now if you're representing a buyer, guess what you're going to do? You're going to look at the quality of the house. You're going to go home and you're going to run a CMA on this house to figure out, hey, Mr. Investor, here's what you should pay for this house. Here's what houses that need to be totally renovated are being listed for and selling for. Okay? And so once your investor has bought this house and hopefully gotten a good deal because you figured out the best price that he can get it for because you ran your CMA, okay, now what are we going to do? We're going to go back and we're going to run the same CMA. But this time, what we're doing is now we're looking at these higher price per square foot homes because the house that your investor bought has now been totally renovated. Okay, so we're going to look at the 126, the 121, the 118, the 113, the 110. Okay, we're going to do the same one-line CMA. And then we're going to say, okay, what's out there and what's available? Well, guess what? There's nothing available. Everything that's nice is already pending. And then these sold. Now look at this days on the market. 56 is the highest. Then you got a 4 and a 2. This one was only 3 days on the market. And so you've got houses that are selling almost immediately. They're selling really, really, really fast. Okay? And so that'll give you an idea of where you can list this house. Okay? But the most important thing is knowing how to run those comps, knowing how to find the comparable comps, knowing how to generate what's called a one-line CMA and bringing that to your buyer to see what they should pay for a house or to your client to see what they should list a house for. Okay, bring this CMA with you. Okay, another great idea is to familiarize yourself with the houses in this CMA. So you don't want to bring a CMA with 80 houses on it, probably. You're going to want to bring one with like 6 or 7 really recent sales. So that way, when somebody pulls, when you present it to your client, they say, okay, well, this one sold for this. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, and you're already somewhat familiar with the property, but all right, let's pull it up. Pull it up. Let's take a look at it and see how your house compares. Oh, well, your house is only a 2-bathroom house with 3 beds. That one's 4 bedrooms with 2.5 baths. You know, that house had high ceilings. Yours did not. That house was all brick and had a 2-car garage. Yours doesn't have a garage and it's vinyl. You know which things are going to sway that price point up and down so that you can price a house to the best of your ability. Okay. So that's how we do CMAs. CMAs are an art form. They are hard to do. You'll get some that get really hard to do. You get some that the price is completely arguable. You know, I've done a billion CMAs in my life, and sometimes, depending on the house, you can make an argument that it's worth anywhere from all the way up here to all the way down here. And it's nobody's right and nobody's wrong in that situation. All it is how well do you know your market and what's the odds of something selling? The better you get at doing these, the more you can maximize what you can list houses for and still move them quickly. And that's what's going to get you the repeat business and the referrals and the super happy clients. And then the other side of it is once you learn your market really well, you'll learn whether your client is overpaying for a house. What constitutes a really good deal on their purchase? So learn how to do CMAs, practice doing CMAs, work on those things, learn your market, okay? Doing a CMA is pretty easy. I hope that this has shown you the simplicity of it. Look, it's not hard. We're going into matrix. We're going into criteria. We're going to select active, pending, continue to show, non-listed solds, open predication, solds, under contract, based off of a date range, either 0 to 180 for 6 months or 0 to 365 for a year. We're going to pick out our state, our parish, our city, single family detached to make sure you're only looking at single family homes. Or if it's a townhome or a double or a garden home or a condo, make sure you're selecting the right thing over here, okay? Approximate living area, 1,800 to 2,500. Okay, so know that living area. Know how big the subject property is and only pick out houses that are very similar in size. And look, if you know it's brand new, then you can come over here and you can select only new houses. Okay, and you can see what the past 3 new houses have sold for. Okay, if you know that it's in excellent or very good condition, you can select those two. Those two are both very popular. Everything is excellent or very good condition. But beyond that, just kind of leave it alone, because one man's poor condition is another man's fair condition. Okay, so those can get very subjective, but a lot of properties fall into the brand new or excellent slash very good category, in which case you just select excellent and very good, which means it's not going to show you new construction properties, because your client's existing home is probably not going to be able to be priced compared to the brand new houses. They just don't sell for as much, generally speaking, unless they've done some major upgrades to it. So I hope this has helped. Practice doing some CMAs. If you have questions, please post your questions to 1% List agents. I'd be happy to answer them, and all my other high producers and franchisees would be happy to answer them as well. This is the hardest part of your job. This is the part that you've got to get really good at, okay? My experienced agents can generally crank out a CMA and have it be incredibly accurate within 2 or 3 minutes. It's not hard. You've just got to master it. And once you master it, unless it's an interesting house, you can literally crank them up like almost immediately, which is the goal. List a lot of houses, do a lot of CMAs. Okay. This is Grant, 1% List. Thank you for sitting through this video. If you got any questions, please feel free to comment in 1% List agents. I'd be happy to hear your feedback. Have a great day.